Hello! I'm back after 2 weeks on vacation, and I want to share with you what I have been reading, which is Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation. I've been reading it for a while, all summer. It's a little bit of a preaching to the choir if you know kind of what I think about smartphones, how I use them, but Jonathan Haidt, if you don't know, is talking about the effects that smartphones are having on our young people, and he doesn't think that they are good effects, and they may not be good effects that they're having on us, and so he explains that he's a positive psychologist, which means that he is looking into the things which make human beings flourish, and he doesn't think that smartphones belong in that category. Now, he introduces this really interesting term in one of the early chapters, which is antifragile. It's not really his term, but he pulls it in to talk about kids, and I think this is a really interesting term because it is ultimately also a formation term, a spiritual formation term. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike. Sanctus Forum, Sanctus Institute. Find out about it on our website, sanctus.institute, blah, blah, blah. You can sign up for the newsletter there, almost monthly newsletter, because I write it and I don't always have the time for it. Sanctus is about spiritual formation, and for that reason, I've been thinking about this book, The Anxious Generation. It's a very important topic to me of digital formation, how the digital world is forming us as people and possibly not forming us in a good way and not forming us in a Christian way or a way in the direction of Jesus. Now, this term antifragile comes from a man named Najim Taleb, if I can read my own writing there. You can find it in, well, where's the chapter here? Nope, I've lost it. This is why I'm supposed to mark my books. Okay, here he goes. This is in the chapter 3, and the guy's name is, I was completely wrong. It's Nassim Taleb. Sorry, Nassim, should you ever see this. Antifragile. The idea comes from that certain things are fragile, other things are resilient, and then there is this middle category of antifragile. So there's this story of the Biosphere 2, which is an attempt out in the desert to kind of create a biodome, and then everything is self-sufficient within the biodome in the biosphere, so the people that live there as well as the plants and the water and all of that. Now, one of the problems that they've been having is with the trees, and the trees grow up for a number of years and they get bigger, but eventually, before they reach maturity, they fall over. And what they've learned is that there's no wind in the biosphere, and the wind actually helps the trees, because when the wind blows against the trees develop resistance and they put down deeper roots, more roots, bark, and all of that to push back against the wind so that they can continue to grow tall and strong. And the term for this is actually, or has been coined as anti-fragile, things that become stronger through difficulty. And there are some things that are fragile, such as a wine glass, and you protect it. And there are other things that are resilient, such as a plastic cup, and you knock a plastic cup on the floor and it's fine, and that's why you give it to children. But there are things in the middle which actually grow, become stronger through some kind of negative force. And trees are like that, but the idea is that people are also like that too. Now, Jonathan Haidt makes an evolutionary argument for that, and that's fine. But I think in terms of spiritual formation, Christian formation, it's precisely the same thing. Now, if that's a new term for you, I just mean becoming a better Christian, better practicing Jesus' spirituality, growing spiritually. And I think that there is today a tendency to celebrate spiritual formation as a kind of avoidance of stress. And I've had a lot to say about this on this channel, but we're kind of trying to avoid burnout or overwork or overtaxing, and just kind of the emptiness that comes from throwing ourselves into things. And there's a sort of idea that spiritual formation means that we want to kind of protect ourselves more, protect our time. We're not going to hurry. We're not going to overextend ourselves in terms of our time or in terms of our money, finances. We're not going to get too close to people because people are messy, and so there may even be a sort of concern to not be too deep into a church because churches might start to make demands on you, and you certainly wouldn't want to have any kids, because kids make it really messy, and then you kind of lose the ability to retain an unhurried and simplified life, which is what's going to help you most make you spiritually formed more like Christ. And I think that conception, which I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, is one in which the ideal is to be a kind of Christian beach bum, and no worries. We're just gonna maybe go surfing in the morning, have a late breakfast, and maybe smoke something, and just trust the universe for the rest. But certainly one in which we avoid stress, and maybe we would try to make as much money as possible, or maybe not worry about that, just so that we can kind of live this sort of unstressed, unhurried, simple life. Now the thing is, if you protect yourself too much, if you make your life too easy, you will not grow spiritually. You won't become more like Jesus. I mean, just even think about the life of Jesus, and think about the fact that, well, he didn't exactly have an easy life. His work wasn't exactly easy. It had elements of difficulty and stress, if you will. He wasn't hurried, but at the same time, he wasn't at ease. Now, he says that his yoke is easy, and that's an easy yoke that you have in the midst of hardship, as well as ease and simplicity and comfortability. So I think that there's something to this idea of anti-fragile for at least Christian spiritual formation. This idea that Christians aren't made by being protected and by kind of surrounding themselves in a way in which they don't have any difficulty, any risk, any stress. That's actually going to hurt us in the long run, because, well, the life that we are a part of now involves those things. And if you think of spiritual formation as kind of protecting yourself from that, at some point you're going to hit against something that really might, as those trees in the biosphere, knock you over. You need small things of resistance, little ways to sort of put yourself into some kind of harm's way, some risk, in order to develop strength in you. And I think this is an important thing to watch out for, that we aren't thinking of spiritual formation or our life in terms of getting rid of all difficulty. And in some cases, we may have to go out and look for it, to actually step out in risk, to take on projects that we're not going to get ourselves out of. I wonder for you all, first of all, I mean, has anybody been reading this book by Jonathan Haidt? And what do you think of this idea of being anti-fragile? And the other thing is, does your life include enough risk? Are you putting yourself into situations where for which you need effort, your own effort, as well as God? You're putting yourself into situations for which you need effort and God. Because it's not just a matter of getting the right disciplines and practices and boundaries and, saying no to things and all of that. It's also about saying yes to certain things in order to strengthen our spiritual muscles and learn how to depend on God despite our weakness. Hope you have a great week. Bye. Okay.